AEW Worlds End saw the return of Adam Copeland and Kenny Omega.
And Kevin Owens and Cody Rhodes are set for a ladder match of the Royal Rumble.
It's time to roar around the ring. That dude, Dale Taylor, back in studio, roar around the ring, back in full. That's because we're coming off of a pay-per-view, AEW Worlds End in Orlando, and this is what's going to look like. Post-pay-per-views, Royal Rumble, PLEs on the WWE side of things. Roar Around the Ring will be here in full to break down the entire show. Of course, we'll still have episodes for you weekly coming your way, but post-PLEs and pay-per-views will be here in full to break down the show.
Yes, sir.
And as I mentioned, AEW Worlds End in Orlando, the final pay-per-view of the year for either company.
Yep.
And AEW ended it with, well, we'll go with a couple of returns, and we'll start in the main event, the Fatal 4-Way, the AEW World Title, Jon Moxley retaining against Jay White, Orange Cassidy, Adam Page, and then post-match, of course, more shenanigans with the Death Riders.
You got to.
Got to have those attacks.
We're in NWO territory with these.
Yeah,
with this group
we got to get all that in. FTR comes out, which they've had their thing with the Death Riders over the last few weeks. Yeah. And then it's Adam Copeland.
Yeah, so we thought it was just FTR.
We thought it was just FTR.
We got the initial pop.
The lights go out.
Yeah.
The pop for FTR was weird.
It was.
They're not getting the pop that
there
they used to.
There was an acknowledgement of them being
like,
there, but it was
hey.
like, oh, hey, we like, yeah, you're cool.
We know you.
But then it was
the lights go out. Yes, rated FTR.
Okay, that's what did it.
Adam Copeland taking out Jon Moxley and letting the Death Riders know that, well, rated FTR is going to take them down and take over everything. Christian Cage is watching all of that. Yeah. With his contract.
And Hook is watching him watch.
Hook is watching Christian watch the match. I don't know if someone was watching Hook watch Christian watch, but there was a lot
Taz was watching from home.
Taz is watching from home.
Or from the, so.
Which Taz was on Dynamite, but not on the pay-per-view, which is weird to me.
So that's why I say maybe he was watching from home
so
or from
Taz
backstage.
Was watching Hook, watch Christian, watch the match.
It's just like degrees of separation.
There's a lot of watching going on for this match.
It's a lot of involvement, yeah.
How do you feel about Adam Copeland returning, getting involved with this Jon Moxley story?
So I'm with it, but I had initially... So every time we've discussed this in the past few weeks, I've always said, so Darby Allin's going to be the guy eventually that, now I don't know if that's the thing anymore. Because it seems like you had all this involvement of all these challengers. Now we have the Adam Copeland thing.
Yeah.
And FTR as his backup, as this team that they're currently are. And I'm like, all right, so is he the guy now that's are we end up with him and Mox going one-on-one?
Right.
Is that where we're headed here?
Yeah, and I'm not the biggest FTR guy, and I mean that in the sense like I'm a fan of theirs.
Do you like them better than the Bucks?
Yes, I like them better than the Bucks. But for me, it's more of like they're always involved in the tag title picture. Yes. So I will say I appreciate them doing something else, right? Like we're not just, we're the best tag team. We need these titles for my family. Kind of, okay, cool. You've told that story, a bunch of times. So, and Adam Copeland needs a crew because he's going after a crew. I love it for Adam Copeland. Props, no spoilers, by the way, right? Like I do appreciate, because I was expecting Darby.
Yeah.
Or Bryan Danielson. Right? Like,
that would have.
I don't know how close they are to having Danielson back.
Danielson would have made a lot of sense, but you're right. I don't know how quick we're getting him back involved here. But
for the sake of like no spoilers, Adam Copeland was not on my radar to come out. So when his music hit, it was a genuine, and in 2024, 2025 wrestling, when you get a genuine like, oh shit.
No, it was, and that's why anyone that was like, "Oh, I kind of figured," you didn't figure. Nobody figured this. Nobody did. Like, why would you figure him to come back? And if he did, you're not going to immediately place him against Moxley.
Yeah, and that's where it is. So it's like, okay, you wouldn't put him there, but I do appreciate, because there's a lot of little long-term storytelling here because of Christian. Christian has that contract, and they kept panning to Christian and how he was like, what the fuck is
That's
he
why I'm
doing
asking.
here?
So do we end up there?
Right.
Do we have another multi-person match, or are we ending up with Copeland versus Christian for the title?
Well, and that's where it's like, I love what they've done with Jon Moxley's run for the most part. I've compared it to JBL in 2004, right? Where he has his crew, he's creating all these enemies, he's had one match after the next. It actually led to a fatal 4-way, Eddie Guerrero, Booker T, and Undertaker.
Yep.
Right? So, similar vibe here, all for it. It isn't there yet, but it's getting dangerous to like, okay, too cluttered. And not in the sense that there's too many stories or too many challengers. You just got to be careful to close one chapter before starting the next. And the Darby Allin chapter, as you mentioned, seems to be right in the middle of it.
Yeah.
Right? And then Bryan Danielson, if and when he ever does come back.
Yeah.
Christian has the contract. And now Adam Copeland wants him.
It's a fine line because so the JBL analogy, and then you had, Guerrero, Taker, Booker, it's fine to have challengers lined up. It's even cool to be able to have multi-person matches, have the champion as at a disadvantage to defend it against multiple people. Yes. That's fine. That's how you build a heel, tell a story, and make the heel a threat when they survive it.
Yes.
It's okay to do that, but you have to have one centralized figure that eventually is going to be their main person, like Hogan had with Sting in the NWO run back in the day.
Yep.
You could have all these challengers, around Hogan in that time, but it all came back to Sting.
Yes.
In this one with Moxley, now we have Adam Copeland involved. We still have Christian with the contract. It's like, okay, cool. Do we just bypass them? Does he beat them? Because if he just beats them,
right
now what's the credibility on their end?
Yeah, and like, no offense to an Orange Cassidy, Jay White, or Adam Page, but they're not the names of Adam Copeland, Bryan Danielson, Christian Cage.
I agree.
Those three names should not just be bypassed storyline names.
Now, is that okay, though? Because we're talking former WWE guys here, and we're saying that the AEW guys don't hold a candle to them. I kind of don't like that vibe on how that ended.
And I understand that storyline, but it's less about WWE guys and more about kind of what Adam Copeland said. I've been doing this for a long time,
True.
Right? Christian's been doing it for a long time. Bryan Danielson's been doing it for a long time. And those three can still go and are still top tier talent.
I think I just really want Jay White to mean something.
And I hate that he took the pin.
Yes.
Hate that he took the pin.
I feel like he came back and it was like, cool, now we can get back on track with him.
Yes.
And it's like, nah, we're not.
Yeah, and Orange Cassidy should have taken that pin. Orange Cassidy shouldn't even have been in the match.
No, because he's already lost. He's already
lost. Like, I'm over it. But yeah, Darby Allin got taken out on Rampage.
Yeah.
So, and now you got this going on. Christian's got a contract, Danielson. So yeah, there's a lot going on. You just need to kind of close these chapters.
And then there's Hook lingering around. I'm like, what are we doing with that?
Yeah,
wrap that up before we put Christian anywhere. I don't know.
I like a lot of it, and then I got very frustrated as they were going off the air because they got Dynamite because they're streaming on Max. As everything.
Good for them.
Good for them, but as every other show does on TBS and TNT, but. Cool.
They got to get their pay-per-view stuff in order.
Please.
As far as streaming goes. Please. But yeah, good for them.
So I get frustrated because going off the air, they promote for Dynamite Adam Copeland and FTR versus Moxley, Claudio, and Wheeler.
Yeah.
And I'm like, come on. You have Adam Copeland and Jon Moxley in the ring. And what happens? The crowd's like, holy shit. Yeah. Because, oh my God, these two are in the ring together.
Yeah, we didn't know we wanted this match. Now we can have...
When that moment happens, build it.
Yeah.
Make us want it. Make us wait for it. And we've said this 1,000 times with AEW. And just like that, you're putting them in a match together on Dynamite.
I would have Moxley just take himself out of the match, put Pac in.
Yeah. Pac does, and Pac's always in his gear.
Yeah, he's always ready.
Always ready to go. No matter where they are.
I feel like someone backstage has offered him clothes to wear, and he's like, I'm good. It's hot. I'm aware. It's a little warm in here.
Yeah, so you just got to drag this out. I don't see Copeland being the guy to take the title off Moxley.
No, but if you drag it out and you build it just for him not to be the guy to take it, see what we're running. They're kind of backing themselves. There's too many moving parts that eventually are not going to mean something.
But why?
It's like, why are we spending so much time on something if it's not going to serve the bigger story?
But if you tie in the Christian thing, why couldn't Copeland be the guy after dragging it out and then Christian cash in like a Money in the Bank?
That I would be okay with because it would bring everything full circle.
See, I wouldn't mind. I prefer a Christian title run over an Adam Copeland title run, and I couldn't tell you why.
I'm with that because I almost feel like as much as I dig the patriarchy group, I think Christian, it's starting to kind of lose some sort of steam. I think Christian needs something to rebuild that, and I think him being the champion would infuse that.
So how long do you go with Christian holding this contract? Whether you want him to cash in on Moxley or Copeland, how soon does he cash in, and is he successful?
If you cash it in too soon, I don't think he should be successful because I don't know why you'd build up the whole Death Riders thing when Mox is champion just to have him lose it like in the next month or two.
Yeah.
I feel like... But at the same time, how much longer does he really need to hold that? So it has to either be a failed cash in,
yes,
or he does, or Copeland wins it, and then he gets cashed in on. That's how Christian wins the title. Yeah,
with Christian, I'm gonna complain about the same thing I do with WWE and Money in the Bank, and I'm gonna say it about Tiffany Stratton. I loved Money in the Bank when they would win it, and same thing with Christian with his contract, and just casually have it and go about telling other stories.
Yeah.
Do not remind me every week that you might cash in. Do not be watching every world title match, right? Like Tiffany, every
she just
match,
did it again.
She just did it again. Yeah. Like every match, you're considering cashing in on Nia.
I think she's the second longest title holder. I think Carmella's the longest the one that held it the longest.
Oh, the Money in the Bank?
Yeah.
For the women's, yeah.
Yeah, I kind of was going over some stats of it, and it's funny because most of those cash-ins in the women's division were at the expense of Charlotte Flair.
Oh, well.
So there you go.
Poor Charlotte, said nobody. So, at least in the title picture. So, but, I mean, it's taken away from the fun of a Money in the Bank situation, or again, with Christian in the contract.
Yeah.
Because the fun of it was, I say it 1,000 times, wrestling fans are so easy to confuse and fool.
We're simple like that
We're
sometimes.
simple. If you just have them take
just
this
enjoy
contract,
the show, man. Yeah.
If they take the contract, take the briefcase, whatever it is, and go tell other stories, and then randomly pop up in a world title match to cash in, we're going to pop as if we totally forgot that they had it.
That's it.
And the fact that you have Christian watching every world title match, we're constantly reminded that he might be a world champion. Same thing with Tiffany Stratton. It's taken away from that moment because the moment is supposed to be a shock. You never know when it's going to happen.
Right.
And it's also not a smart strategy if you're looking at within the storyline. Why would you constantly remind the champion, hey, I might be out there?
I'm over here.
Right. Like, hey,
it's an element of surprise.
Let the champion forget that you have it. Right. So I don't love that. I agree with you, though. Like, this Moxley run should go for a little bit longer. I don't think Copeland's the guy to take the title off of him. And it really just depends on how much Danielson is still involved in the story.
Yeah.
Right? Like, are they planning for a Danielson return at some point? I mean, All In is in July, so you'd think they'd save the bigger stuff for that.
Yeah.
But it depends on when that happens, and when Danielson does come back, Moxley should be world champion.
Yeah, I know people right now will hear July and be like, "Oh my God, July!" Like that's like, dude, it'll be here before you know it.
Yep.
And not only that, but again, so many moving parts, so many different challengers, contenders out there. The story you have to make all that make sense to eventually get to the story. By the time you get to where this story is supposed to end, I'm hoping that somebody has a good idea of navigating it here.
Yeah.
We'll be close to July.
Yeah.
So we'll be out of March into April at that point. So it's fine.
That's the beauty of having so much going on, because you could tell a Moxley Copeland story, you could tell a Moxley Darby story, and those can take a few months.
It'll get us into the early parts of the summer.
Yeah, and then Danielson comes back and build to July for the pay-per-view. Yep. So it all makes sense. The other return, though, was Kenny Omega after Kazuchika Okada won the Continental Classic. It was awesome to hear that music again. Yeah. Yes, the music, Christopher Daniels no longer an EVP. Omega kind of taking over that role again. Before we get into that real quick, how did you feel about the layout of the Continental Classic, the Final Four, and who won? Did they get it right?
I didn't hate the Final Four, like the way they had it. I think that the Ricochet involvement kind of is going somewhere else now.
Yes.
I was glad that it ended the way it did. I wouldn't have mind like Ospreay winning.
Sure.
But I feel like there's more for him beyond this. It would have been fine because I mean he's like the biggest face in the company.
Yes.
But since Okada went all the way, I'm like, okay, this is going to go one of two ways.
Mm-hmm.
He made it to this match. Now, either I don't know if we're going to have a third rubber match with Fletcher and Ospreay here. So that's what I was thinking. We're either going to do one more match with that's not going to involve the title, or Okada's dropping it here.
Yeah, I thought they nailed it with the Continental Classic overall. Like, outside of what we talked about before, why is Okada going through the whole tournament to defend the title? That still doesn't make sense.
I'm glad
to me.
that's the part that I'm fine with now.
Yes.
Now I'm fine with it.
The Final Four was perfect. I think Ricochet, and we'll talk about him in a little bit, but it gave him a lot of credibility. Yeah. Fletcher a lot of credibility getting to the finals. Ospreay's a big name. And of course, Okada's a champion. It gave a lot of guys credit. There was a lot of guys still in the running going into the final week. Brody King was still in the running to be in the Final Four.
You know what I love about it is that this has helped solidify Kyle Fletcher's singles run.
Yes.
And not only that, it's just anytime a Will Ospreay match is on a pay-per-view now, I'm like, can we just roll out the trophy? Because we already know what this thing's going to be.
Well, yeah, and
like,
especially
this is going to be great. Like
with AEW and their go-to is like, hey, we're going to put on good matches. The story may not always be there.
But there's a story with this one.
Always is, right? Like even on Dynamite, in the semifinals or the quarterfinals, whatever you want to call it, they were like, hey, if Darby doesn't win, like, Ospreay needs Darby and this person to win, or if this goes to a draw, this person's eliminated. Brody King's still involved. Like there's instant story automatically involved. So, and it gives a lot of credibility to the guys that are in it. So I thought they did it well. I was with you when Ospreay got pinned. I'm like, really? And it didn't make sense until Omega's music hit, and then I'm like, okay, cool. I get it now. I'm good with it. Your reaction to Kenny Omega's return, handing Okada this title and walking away.
I mean, the All In banner is right there.
Yeah.
Whatever the health situation is for him, Hopefully, I know the reports are that he's cleared, he's fine, but you need to make that official. It'll be official whenever there's a match announced, but It's awesome to have him back. I think again, it's an embarrassment of riches when you have a Will Ospreay and a Kenny Omega on your roster, healthy and ready to go.
Yeah, easily. Yeah. And then you got to get those matches in just like how they gave us Ospreay and Okada. And you don't do this if Omega, and I said this about Big E and the New Day, right? You don't do this unless Omega is at least close to being cleared.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And I personally love how they brought him back like this. Yeah. And like, we're going to tell this story for a while. The one question mark for me is the Young Bucks going MIA, right? Like they were involved with the Death Riders and then they weren't. They dropped their tag. So they're showing up in New Japan. Yeah. And just act like they're just not around. Like, by the way, you're the EVPs.
Yeah, we're not addressing what's happening over here. The Death Rider's taking over. Like,
and this is where the one thing that's going to make this confusing or potentially make this story confusing is the power of on-screen authorities, right? Omega's an EVP. We barely ever see Tony Khan, which is fine. I'm not saying we should. But then the Young Bucks were the bosses. How are the bosses allowed to go to a different company and just focus on a different company's tag titles? Yeah. And not pay any attention to what's going on in that company. Okada being down with the EVPs also, by the way. I almost feel like we need to see Tony Khan now. Yes. Like, as much as we say, oh, cringeworthy, whatever, that's fine, dude, whatever. He needs to come out, even if it's only on television, and be like, I am establishing, like, complete power over this company and everything. Like, I am the owner. I am the final say. Yes. That'll clear so many things up. It'll free so many people up out of like, why aren't they doing this? How come this person isn't getting involved? Do that. Yeah, I mean, one of those two things need to happen because either the Young Bucks need to come back or Tony Khan, because that's going to make this story very confusing. Because does Omega have the power? Yeah. And if he has the power, what about Tony Khan? Yeah. And then the Young Bucks are off in a different company, but I thought they had power. Yeah, and they're not all in agreement. So what's going on? And this is a huge thing to have Omega and Okada in the U.S. in AEW telling a story like this. So you don't want those confusing story arcs taken away from this match and this story that they're going to tell. How long, though, do you drag this out? You mentioned the All-In banner. That's in July. They have a few other pay-per-views. They announced Revolution in L.A. They're not talking about the Australia pay-per-view. By the way. In February, Grand Slam. Just skipping over that one. We're just skipping over that one, which, sure. How long do you drag this out before Omega snaps? I don't know. It depends on how we get to this whole power struggle thing. Yeah. And I don't think that's going to happen. I mean, I don't know. I say that I don't think it will, but I assume it won't all be resolved in the course of a month. Yeah. It should take, if you're telling a story, it should take at least a few months to get that thing sorted out till you announce a big match or a new angle for Kenny Omega where he's like, right, this is my first match back officially. Yeah. You know, and I don't want it to be in some 8-man tag team match. For sure. If he's good to go, put him in a singles match. That's what people want to see. Yeah, and that's what we've seen the Young Bucks and Kenny go about it. And the Young Bucks will be involved. They need to be involved, and I'm with that. I'm going to say this again, like I said earlier on with Moxley and Copeland. Drag it out. Yeah. Right? This is a dream match. This is a big deal. Kenny Omega being back and cleared is a big deal. So even if he is cleared, it's okay to tell a story. Yes. I read some comments from people under different boards, under different videos for AEW where they say, oh, well, WWE likes to tell stories. AEW puts on matches. They have to go hand in hand. Yes. Why should I care about a match if you're not giving me a story? It goes back to how long we've been watching wrestling. We've seen great matches a lot. At this point of wrestling, what makes it special isn't moves, isn't a crazy moveset, isn't a 45-minute match. It's a match with meaning. Yeah. Give this match meaning more than it's just Kenny Omega and Kazuchika Okada. Make me care. Make me care the same way you make me care when two people into the Royal Rumble back-to-back who've been feuding the prior year. Yes, and that's the type of feeling we need. This can drag out to All In. Yeah. It's that big of a deal. Kenny Omega can be an on-screen boss for the next 6 months. And then snap at some point, make us want him to snap, make us wait, and then make us wait longer than we want to wait, because that when he does, that makes that moment that much more special. Yeah. And that would just lead to a much bigger deal for the Omega Okada match, which would match how big of a deal this actually is. So what happens to Little Pierce? I don't know, because he was also talking to Adam Page leading into World's End, acting like he was going to help him. Make him sound like he wants to get back in the ring. And then then nothing ever came of that. Hey, I got your back at World's End if you need anything, and then nothing ever came of that. We shall see. We shall see. Let's run the gauntlet of everything else that's going on in the world of wrestling, and let's go over to WWE. Already a Royal Rumble main event announced. Kevin Owens and the Winged Eagle title, Cody Rhodes and the WWE title, a ladder match at the Rumble. Are you good with this storyline being stretched out out to the Rumble.
I am, if nothing more, for just see that title more often.
Yes.
and I don't know how much longer we'll see it. I don't know. It's, we don't need split championships anymore.
Yes.
Just leave it. But no, I love seeing the Winged Eagle Championship.
It is not easy to say, but no. I love it. I love it on Kevin Owens. I said this in the past. Kevin Owens is on pace to be like the top heel of 2025 easily right now. And I love this story. And I know we talked a lot about The Rock and Cody potentially for the Rumble. I'm good to hold off on that. We can focus Rock on Roman, and let's keep telling this story with Cody and KO and whenever Orton comes back, because I'm more interested in Cody with this and Rock with the Bloodline than I am with the Rock and Cody right now. And this is a perfect filler for that. Raw debut on Netflix. We have a couple predictions to get through, so let's start with Roman Reigns, speaking of the Bloodline, Solo Sikoa, the Ulafala on the line. How do you see this match going, and who wins?
I think Roman has to win this one. But I also wonder if we're going to get that, if that's going to be the Rock's moment to come back.
Yes.
There might be a whole lot going on in that match.
I mean,
if you're going to have Rock show up,
it has to be.
Yeah, why would it be just randomly at the end or at the beginning of the show, like just to talk to the audience? Like, no.
This Raw debut on Netflix is such a big deal. It's in Los Angeles. This has to be the Rock's moment. And again, I keep bringing up, he randomly showed up at Bad Blood.
Plus, you think of the places where Rock has historically kind of just randomly shown up, New York, or Brooklyn area, Los Angeles. It's like, okay, these are all areas Rock will be at, and he's prone to show up. Yeah. So
I have Roman win this, but I think The Rock gets involved and The Rock walks out with the Ulafala.
Oh, I like that. Now, do you think in his involvement he aligns himself with the new Bloodline?
No.
Or he just takes the Ulafala
That cannot be easy, because you have to remember Solo Sikoa thinks he's the tribal chief. So why would he then bow down to The Rock like that? I think at some point he will.
Yeah.
But I think that needs to be a story within itself. That should take some time.
I love that. Rock takes the Ulafala and walks
Roman
away
wins it, but The Rock walks out with it.
I like
after
that.
laying out Roman.
And have him just wear it every time he shows up. Yeah, I love that.
CM Punk and Seth Rollins. Also, Raw debut on Netflix. Who you got?
I don't think the match is going to happen.
You don't think the match is going to happen at all?
No, I think they're going to get entrances. But I don't know. I don't think it's going to be. Now, we're going to be sitting there watching it on Netflix. I'll be like, the match is happening and it's over.
Yes.
But I have a feeling that something's going to happen where this actually might, to your point, get stretched out to be the match it should be later on.
I think it needs to happen because, and we'll talk about in AEW, Adam Cole and MJF, but like an injury gets involved in a storyline, so you need to fast forward it.
Okay.
So we need to at least have a match. This just needs to be a trilogy. This could still happen at WrestleMania.
Okay. So you're thinking multiple matches now.
Yes, and WrestleMania can be the final match of the trilogy.
With like a stipulation on it or something.
I give CM Punk the win because it's on Netflix. Punk is all over the place, kind of promoting it a lot more than Seth is.
Okay.
But I think this is where Seth snaps. And I am all in on a Drew McIntyre-Seth Rollins alliance. And I think the twist of this match to keep the story going is Seth and Drew laying out Punk.
So the assumption, I'm going off that because the assumption that I and many other people have been making is that CM Punk's favor involves WrestleMania. It may not.
I don't think it should.
It may not involve WrestleMania.
I don't think it should, unless it's a straight Punk-Cody match, and neither of them are involved.
I don't think we're getting
Bloodline.
Cody Punk at WrestleMania.
No. Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley, now last woman standing for that women's title on the Raw debut on Netflix. Who you got?
Liv.
I
think Rhea needs to move on. She's bigger than the championship. She's big. She's a big star on her own. Liv needs that title more than Rhea does.
100%. I'm with you on that. Liv Morgan definitely needs this going into WrestleMania. Also, the last woman standing thing, like a lot of people assume it's going to favor the more dangerous one. It actually goes the opposite route. Usually the bigger, like whether it's the larger superstar or the more dangerous one, the last woman standing stipulation is to tell that story. Like, how is Liv going to keep her down? And then
it's
she
the
gets
David versus
creative.
Goliath thing, pretty much, yeah.
And then she gets creative to keep her down. Just like when the Big Show was ever involved and they would just bury him under tables and they win, right? So I think Rhea Ripley's in a similar situation. I would go Liv Morgan.
We could get a potential return from somebody too. You never know.
Potentially. They keep mentioning AJ Lee a lot. And AJ Lee is my crazy prediction to show up at the Rumble.
As just a surprise entrant?
I think
Why not?
I don't know if she wins it, but I think she sticks around to tell a story.
Winning it. You think she's okay?
I think she sticks around to tell a story.
Wouldn't be surprised if she shows up.
Liv Morgan needs a big name. If Rhea Ripley's going somewhere else, Liv Morgan versus AJ Lee at WrestleMania would definitely tell a story.
Yeah. That could work.
The New Day getting some heat from everybody, including Kofi Kingston's mom.
Oh, not mama.
Walking out on them on Raw. How do you feel about the way they're treating this New Day heat since they've turned on Big E?
I love it.
Yeah.
I love that they're just so oblivious to like, what did we do wrong?
Yes.
We could have done so many horrible things and we didn't. Why are you? I'm like, it's a universal thing that people could be like, it's because you turned your back on your boy.
Yes.
That's why we don't like you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Even Dominic Mysterio.
Yeah.
Right?
Even Dom didn't do that.
Yeah. Not even Dom would do that.
That's low, bro.
And I love that they're taking their time with it because it is, and I don't mean this in a negative way, it's a touchy thing for fans to see the New Day as heels. So you got to be careful with it.
Because you don't want to boo them, but
Yes.
it's like we're mad at you because you're making us be mad at you.
Correct. And you don't want to do this wrong.
Yeah.
Like if you're going to do this, because no one thought the New Day would be heels again, you got to make sure you do it right. So you got to be careful with it. I love that they're taking their time. And also, I said this before, you don't do this if Big E's not at least close to getting healthy.
Yeah.
So
I hope that's the case.
It's giving them
the
time to get back.
involvement thing was a good touch too.
I loved it.
I liked it.
Drew McIntyre is back and targeting the Bloodline. Is this another situation where it's a heel and Drew McIntyre who is absolutely correct in everything he's saying?
Yeah, because and also too, it's just cool. It's like watching a revenge flick where the guy's just going and taking everybody out one by one. It's like, go get him. And it's like, I don't know, just Drew's that guy now, and it's like I'm with it. I like it.
He had his promo on Raw with Sami Zayn, and you know, Sami Zayn, I've said what I've said about him in the past.
You're a wrestler of 2024.
Yeah, right. And I'm sorry, his return to the Bloodline hasn't done what I thought it would do for him.
It's like, oh, this is not how it's supposed to go at all.
This is not what it's supposed to be. Like, we're saying Sammy Uso, but this is not Sammy Uso.
We're just like, Sammy Uso.
Yay, cool. I wish you'd be the Sammy Uso that we saw before, man. Come on. But he had his promo with Drew, and I'm like, I agree with everything Drew's saying. And this is why the Drew Seth alliance.
We have been for the past year.
Yes.
Pretty much.
Everything he said in the Punk storyline, I'm like, I get it, right? And then now, like, in the same thing Seth's saying, why is Punk team with Roman? Why did Cody? Yeah. Kevin Owens, same thing. You could do a KO, Seth Rollins. I'm not saying you should go this well because different shows and different stories, but you could get away with a KO, Seth Rollins, Drew McIntyre alliance.
Like an alliance, yeah, dude.
And I'd support it 1,000% because they're all right.
They'd be speaking truth you don't want to hear.
Yes. Why are you teaming with the Bloodline? Roman hasn't changed. Cody does his thing, and so on and so forth. So
yeah, Roman's redemption arc is still in the works.
Jey Uso, you don't need this, and here you are. You know, back with your brother.
Trying to do everybody a favor. It's like, dude, don't dim your brightness, man.
Drew is so good and so right with everything he says. The women's IC title tournament, the final four, predict the final match, and then your winner, Dakota Kai and Zoe Stark, and then Lyra Valkyria and Io Sky. Who's your finals and who you got?
I want to see Io, low key. I want to see Io win it.
Win it all?
Yeah.
Who does she beat in the final?
She's going up against Valkyria, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So she would either face in the finals Dakota Kai or Zoe Stark.
Dakota Kai.
Battle of
yeah. Because Damage Control as a group is not. It's not. It's just not. It's not a thing anymore.
Yeah.
You know.
They're just very casually like, we're still cool.
It's like, hey, we got the theme music in the name. Let's use it. Okay.
That's my same finals, but Dakota Kai should win this.
Okay.
This is a title. She's somebody that like a lot of people get behind, and this is just like Chelsea Green with the U.S. title on SmackDown.
So great.
Yes, right? But this is the babyface side. Dakota Kai gets that same type of push that we've been waiting for.
Speak to the power of Damage Control as a group, because you had Bayley, right?
Yeah.
Then you had Io get her shine as the women's champion. And so to your point, let's pass that on down to Dakota. Yeah,
and I think there would be no animosity. Io would celebrate with Dakota like, you got the best of me. Congratulations. I love it for you.
I'm just always impressed with Io, so I want
I love Io, yeah. I wouldn't be mad at that, but I think Dakota Kai is the way to go, and she can beat Io to get there. Let's go over to AEW, and we mentioned the Continental Classic. Ricochet showing a heel side of himself, and now in a feud with Swerve Strickland. How do you feel about this feud and the heel side of Ricochet?
So I was already pissed about the Lashley segment with him because I'm like, why are you doing this to Ricochet?
Yep.
But now the toilet paper thing with the crowd and Swerve, I'm like, yeah, let's just run with it, because run with the fact that everybody on the interwebs is talking about Ricochet. You're just not the dude. You're not the guy.
Yeah.
And you weren't the guy in this company. You're not the guy in this company either. And just use that. Use it.
They're doing with Ricochet what they think they're doing with Chris Jericho, right?
Perfect.
Because like you're playing into this perfectly with Ricochet. And I said it before, Ricochet has a ton of talent, but no meaning behind it.
Yep.
We have not talked about him more than we have been the last few weeks. Swerve is the perfect guy to go at him. and the perfect angle to go with it. Now he's that irritating little fucking twit, that kid that just keeps talking. And
Ricochet is the epitome of you're really good for no reason.
Yes. And now you're really fucking annoying.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like, get out of here, kid. Like, and I love that vibe to him. And Swerve is the perfect guy to kind of tell that story.
To bully him in a way, though.
100%.
Yeah.
The one thing I didn't love about it and loved about the story is the Hurt Syndicate is doing nothing now. And I'm not mad that they weren't on the pay-per-view, but they're not doing anything now. Shelton Benjamin lost in the Continental Classic.
We can give it some time to see where they go, but please don't let that group just go off.
I'm worried about them right now because if we're focusing on Swerve and Ricochet...
That is a main event level faction right there.
Yes, don't waste this faction. You gave people something that we thought we wasted in WWE. Yeah. Don't waste it here.
But I agree. The Ricochet thing, yes, I'm with it.
Love it. Speaking of factions, Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly, Roderick Strong back together after MJF cheated to win against Adam Cole. Your thoughts on this move and what should be next for them?
They can go out there every week and give hugs like Bayley used to, as long as they keep them away from MJF. Sure. I want this feud to be over and done. Just stop. Yeah,
I hate to say it to you. I think you have to have Taven and Bennett join MJF and get at least one 6-man tag out of it.
Oh, God.
I hate to look. I agree with you. This story should be over. They beat a dead horse when it comes to Adam.
Well, they tried to reroute the ship. They tried to write it, and it's just like nah.
They tried to reroute the ship way too many times, and Adam Cole's now the babyface, even though he was the asshole heel that started all of this.
And now you guys look like the asshole heel group teaming up on one guy.
Yes. But
I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
Like
it's very confusing. I'm not saying I want to see it. I am just saying I can tell that's the route they should go.
Tie up loose ends and move on.
Just tie up the loose ends. This should be happening on a Dynamite in 2 weeks and then move on.
Please. Somebody attack MJF. I don't care. Just move on.
Who's Trios champions? Death Riders haven't mentioned those titles in a minute.
Whatever. Less titles, the better.
I get it, but they still exist. I don't mind the move. The story has been dragged on way too long. But at the same time, you do need to tie up these loose ends because you continue to tell this story, which means there's loose ends to be tied. And Taven and Bennett, I don't want them involved in this faction either. You're not Undisputed Era. Go away. Right? So like Taven and Bennett are the ones that should be turned away. Go away. I want Undisputed Era. Yeah. All right, last two things. First off, AEW shutting down Rampage quite literally with the Jon Moxley segment and a brawl to end it.
By order of Jon Moxley.
How do you feel about Rampage going away and how they ended it?
The show that I often missed.
Yeah, for sure.
So, I mean, oh no, don't take it from me.
Not Rampage.
I mean, it was a hell of a way to go off the air.
Yeah.
But to stress the point of the importance of the Death Riders as a group and how they're combating the AEW locker room, cool, I'm with it.
Yeah, I love that for that reason, right? Like it added to the Moxley story. Rampage going away, they haven't cared about it for 2 years. Yeah. And I'm watching the Rampage itself, and I noticed bigger names are on it. First off, like this past week, so I'm like, wow. So we're not just getting Commander every week. Fantastic. And then...
the face of Rampage.
Yeah, the face of Rampage. And then you have this whole segment in Moxley. It's like, that was great.
Yeah.
It gave Moxley a lot of meaning. I wish you would have put this much thought in the Rampage for the last couple of years.
Yeah.
As if you thought you were going to when you created it.
Put it on Max.
Right? Same thing with Collision. Collision was a lot more entertaining than Dynamite for a lot of the first few months. And now they just stopped caring about it.
It was the CM Punk show.
It was the CM Punk show. So. But yeah, it was time to get rid of it. They haven't cared about it. And then lastly, SmackDown's moving to 3 hours. How do you feel about this move?
I do not like 3 hour shows. I will never like 3 hour shows. I understand why. I think you and I have discussed as much. It was probably kind of an olive branch to go to the USA Network. Be like, hey, we're taking this show away.
Yes.
We'll give you an extra hour.
Yeah.
Right, cool.
Yeah, I 2 years ago would have hated it. This year, I don't drag through Raw like I used to when Raw was 3 hours. Right? Like, I trust that Triple H has found the right pace to a 3 hour TV show. Vince never did. Triple H kind of has. I don't think it needs to be 3 hours, but I don't hate it as much as I used to.
No, again, like, I get their bottom line corporate speak of, well, more revenue, more than, okay, that, they're going to do it.
It doesn't need to be 3 hours. I just don't hate it as much. I trust Triple H's pace now to not hate it as much as I would used to. So. Roar Around the Ring is available every week. Find us on YouTube at Roar Around the Ring. He's that dude, Real Dale Taylor. I'm Justin Valentine. We'll talk to you guys very soon.